Hello again. Now when you set your guitar up, obviously the most important thing is making sure that the strings are in tune, that the open notes when you play them correspond to the notes you expect. So when you hit that open top string, you hear an E. And you kind of expect from there, when you know that that top E string's in tune, that if you fretted at the first fret you'll get an F, second fret an F sharp, third fret a G, and so on. And you do, but there's a certain aspect of your guitar setup which, if it's not quite right, means that as you move up the neck and you're playing the fretted notes, the fretted note is actually going to be slightly out of tune. It's going to be slightly above or slightly below the note that you think you're playing. And this aspect of the guitar setup is called intonation. And it's all to do with the sort of the vagaries of the way that the guitar is built and the physics behind the way that the string vibrates. Now, in principle, the 12th fret is halfway between the nut and the bridge. So if you've got a ruler and you measure the distance from here to here, and then from here to here, it'll be half. But it's necessary usually to adjust slightly so that string length is such that the 12th fret maybe is just a little bit short of halfway or a little bit over halfway along the string. Just the way the guitar works, really. And setting the intonation is really easy to do. There's different ways to do it depending on what kind of bridge you've got on your guitar. So what I'm going to do is go down, put the guitar on the bench and show you some of the different types of bridge that you can come across, and show you how to set the intonation on those types of bridge.
Right, so we've got the guitar on the bench, and as always there's a bit of matting down to protect the back of the guitar from getting scratches off the hard surface of the bench. And likewise, if you're doing this on a dining table or something at home, you probably want to protect the table from any scratches off the back of the guitar. Now, whereas the tuning of the guitar is all done down at the headstock end with the machine heads, the intonation's all set down here at the bridge on the saddles. Using the Strat here as the first example, because it's probably the easiest to show and to explain. Only tool that you need for setting the intonation is a screwdriver, and on the Strat trem, in this case we've got a Phillips head bit. There's some Phillips head screws in here that we use to set the intonation. Other guitars you come across, you might need a hex head, like an Allen key, or a flat head. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So down here on the bridge, each string is on its own individual saddle. And what you should be able to see is that there's a screw that comes to the back of the bridge plate here. There's a little spring there, and that goes into the saddle. And what we can do is we can turn the screw here in the bridge plate, and it'll, as it winds forwards or backwards, it'll move that whole saddle backwards or forwards. And what that'll do is that'll shorten or lengthen the string. And what we're doing when we're setting the intonation on a guitar is we compare the sound of the open string to the sound of the string being played at the 12th fret. Now there should be 1 octave difference. And this is something you can check really easily. Just using a tuner or even a little clip-on headstock tuner is probably just about accurate enough. Although if you've got something more accurate, like a dedicated tuning meter or like a tuning pedal or something like that, that's even better. If you can get something that does strobe tuning, that is like super accurate. So what you should be able to do is play a note here on the open string, and then fret the note at the 12th fret. And when you look at your tuning meter, you should see that it's registering the same note but 1 octave apart. You need to be a little bit careful when you're playing the fretted note. We've got the guitar down on the bench here, so you need to play the fretted note the way that you would when you're playing the guitar normally. So try and press down with the same amount of pressure. Particularly if you've got quite high frets or like scallop neck or something like that, it's quite easy to press down a little bit too hard and play the note a little bit too sharp. Squeeze it a cent or two too high. So you want something that's going to be an accurate representation of how the note would sound when you're playing it at the 12th fret normally. Now that fretted note, as I say, should normally be exactly an octave above the open string. If it's not, then that's where you need to adjust the intonation. And say in the case of the Stratocaster style trem, we put a screwdriver into here, and what we'll need to do is if the fretted note is too high, then what we need to do is lengthen the string ever so slightly. So in the case of turning the screw to increase the tension, wind that and pull the saddle back over. If the fretted note is too low compared to the open string, then what we need to do is shorten the string slightly, so it'll be a turn on the screw to release the tension on that spring and allow the saddle to move forwards slightly. Shorten the string, so give the screw just about half a turn of a turn, depending on how far out that fretted note was compared to the open string. Try again, and basically repeat that across all 6 strings. It's not particularly difficult to do. Generally, you should find you don't need a whole lot of movement if your guitar's been set up reasonably well beforehand. Just a little bit of drift over time, or if you've changed your string gauge or whatever, might knock the intonation out. But generally, if your guitar's reasonably well set up, then you just fine tuning the intonation, then just a turn or two on the screws here should be enough to get the intonation set. So on the Strat style trem bridge here, and it's the same on like hardtail Strats and Telecasters as well, we've got the saddles for each string. Some Telecasters, in fact it's more common on Telecasters that the string saddles are actually in pairs, so you can't adjust the intonation on individual strings. It's a bit of a compromise. Telecaster players, some of them prefer the ones where the saddles are in pairs, because you've got a more solid lump of metal, so I think you get a better tone that way, but you lose some of the fine tunability, so you're always kind of having to balance the intonation on pairs of strings rather than being able to fine tune the intonation on each string individually, but you can get it close enough. And it's the same principle on the telly, that you've got the screw, the little spring, adjusting the position of the saddle. And it's the same principle on pretty much any guitar. There's a mechanism for adjusting the position of the saddle to lengthen or shorten the string. So this is the sort of bridge that you'll come across on more sort of like Gibson style guitars, stop tailpiece, where you've got the tailpiece here and the individual saddles. I mean, this guitar is actually in a fairly parlous state of repair, and the intonation I think is actually quite a ways out. But basically this works in the same way, that it provides you a mechanism for moving the saddle forwards or backwards, so you can adjust the length of the string between the bridge here and the nut to lengthen or shorten it to adjust the intonation. And basically what you've got just down here are some screws which allow you to move and wind the saddles forwards or backwards. That'll adjust the length of the string and let you set the intonation. So that's the Gibson style bridge with the stop tailpiece, and that's called the Tune-o-matic. So if you hear anyone talking about setting up a Tune-o-matic bridge, that's the sort of thing they're doing. Okay, so this is my Thompson custom guitar. It's got a Floyd Rose style tremolo, and adjusting the intonation on a Floyd Rose is a little bit different to the like the Strat style bridge that I showed you before. On the Floyd style guitar, we've got some hex head screws here which you can adjust with an Allen key. What you need to do is slacken that screw off, and then you can move the whole saddle backwards or forwards, and then once you've got the intonation set, tighten that screw up again to put the saddle, fix it back into place. It's the same principle though. You play the open string, play the 12th fret note, and depending on whether it's higher or lower, you move that saddle forwards or backwards. Again, like the Strat trem, individual pieces for each individual string, so you can adjust the intonation on a string by string basis.
And as I always say in these videos, if there's anything that you're not sure about, maybe there's something weird about your guitar, that some might have strange sorts of screws, or the bridge setup's a little bit unlike what you're seeing here. If you're not sure what you're doing, take it to your local guitar repair shop. You know, if the luthier's any good, he'll explain what it is that he's doing, and it might be enough that, you know, you have to go through the pain of paying somebody to do the job for you the first time, but after that you know how to do it for yourself. Hey, if you've got a guitar teacher, he's probably seen plenty of guitars in his time. You know, get him to show you if you're not sure what you're doing. It's not difficult, so hopefully you'll have the confidence to be able to do it yourself, and it's just another little thing you can do to keep your guitar in sort of like optimum health. Okay, so thanks very much for watching. I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you in another video sometime soon. Bye for now.